In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a number of ways to work with liquid culture. Now, liquid culture, as you get it from the store, is simply a syringe filled with nutrient-colonized mycelia. Now, I'm not sure how well you can see it under the camera. This one is a couple of months old, so you can see the mycelia in there, and you can see that it's a tarragon oyster culture that I purchased. These cultures are getting a little older at 2 months, so I'm going to make use of them. And what I'm going to do is demonstrate inoculation of a bag. I'm going to demonstrate inoculation of a grain spawn jar with portobello, and I'm going to show you a little bit about dealing with master cultures, inoculating your own broth for liquid culture, and troubleshooting your liquid cultures. So let's get going. First thing is always cleanliness, as you saw me doing at the beginning of the video. Always, always clean your workspace, clean everything, wear gloves. I cannot emphasize enough how this will help you, because it is certainly possible to do everything right and still end up with contamination. And having thrown out a number of contaminated substrates, I can tell you that is no fun. So we start by cleaning our surface. We continue by cleaning everything. Now this is a specialized mycology lid with a filter on top. The bottom is what's called a self-healing port, and it is the reason we can do this outside of a still air box, but we're still going to clean things. I'm going to work with portobello for this one, because portobello requires a different substrate than we find in our usual sawdust block, and it needs to be inoculated from liquid culture as well, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, so I've cleaned everything, and I'm going to demonstrate how we clean a needle. A little bit of alcohol, a little bit of flame. Keep it away from your gloved hand because it will melt the glove. I realize you can't quite see what I'm doing, so let's try it this way. And we want to keep the flame on there until the end of the needle glows red hot. But then we let it cool down just a shade, because red hot will kill the mycelium coming out. We insert the needle into the self-healing port and depress the plunger, and I'm going to go ahead and give it the entire dose, because as I said, these cultures are a little old, and the other advantage of giving it the entire dose is that it will colonize more quickly and hopefully edge out any mold that might miraculously appear. Okay, one cool thing you can do, I always leave my substrates overnight to cool down in my canner, because you don't want to fry the mycelium. But this wonderful thing is called a thermogun, and you can check temperatures on surfaces this way. It's very, very cheap on eBay. You just turn it on by depressing the trigger. A laser will scan the temperature, and as we see, the temperature is 69. Looks a little backwards, but I think you'll get it. So we have that, and I made my labels before I began the video, and we very much want to do our labels one at a time and label right away upon inoculation, because trust me, you won't remember if you're doing more than one. And yes, gloves can be a bit of a hassle, but it's well worth it, much like your still air box that way. For my labels, I like to label them with the common name, the species name, and the date of inoculation. Give that one a shot and put it aside. The next thing we want to do is the sawdust block, and we're going to do it in a very similar fashion. I'm going to use the tarragon oyster. You know what? We're not going to do the sawdust block right away. I would like to talk about liquid master cultures first, because I'm going to use the tarragon oyster for that as well. And again, you want to kind of manipulate the syringe so that the mycelia is spread throughout. You can probably see it in there. If not, trust me. Now, this is what's called an auger slant. It is the test tube version of a PDA plate, auger in a petri dish. And the reason we use this is to make a master culture in the environment that is less prone to contamination and easier to store in your refrigerator. Okay? This is PDA in what's called a broth. And the broth is what you use to make the liquid culture. Now, obviously, you can see that it's a liquid, and the other is a slant. Now, what we do to make your liquid culture is, again, a little alcohol, a little flame, watch for your glove, flame it till it's red hot, and you're going to have to work quickly here, okay? You're going to have to work very quickly. Alcohol on both the test tubes that you're working with. Uncap them very quickly. Depress the plunger. You don't need much in either one. And doesn't hurt to wipe them again with your alcohol wipe and recap them. Okay. And over time, these will grow into a fully colonized master culture. You can use this master culture to make more of these plates. More of the liquid cultures, and yeah, more plates, more master cultures. In this way, my $8 tube of 10 milliliters of mycelia can be stretched a lot farther than just one little bag. Okay, now we are going to do the sawdust block. I did the sawdust block yesterday, and one thing you might notice is that it is sealed using a food sealer. This is one of the wonderful things about working with liquid culture. You can seal your bags before you put them in the canner, so when they come out, they are sterilized and it is an enclosed environment. Now, that's not to say that things still don't happen, because they do, but this helps. And again, it's a very easy thing to do. Many people use self-healing ports on these, and I didn't grab one of mine before, so I'm not going to grab it while the movie is running. There are several kinds. The idea of a self-healing port is pretty much the same as the self-healing port on this jar. And really, you can make them from anything. You can make them from a small piece of rubber that you cut up from a larger one, which some of mine are, or you can make them from something that's very similar to what's on this mycology lid. You don't even have to use them as long as you tape over the injection site with a tape that will stand up to the high humidity in your Martha tent. And I've had problems with that. So, be warned and learn from my experience. And again, this is a very, very simple thing to do. Since I've learned to be paranoid about these things, I'm going to clean a little bit more, and I'm going to clean the site that I intend to inject. And then, say it with me now, alcohol and flame till it's red hot. And yes, this is pretty much the way we did it in my ecology lab. Okay, so yes, it does work. And again, it's the reason we can do this outside of the still air box. Jab, depress the plunger, and again, I'm going to use all of it simply because it's old culture and it needs to be used. And I'm going to put my label over the injection site, and I will probably tape it a little better after the video because I didn't grab it, and I'm probably going to need it because the label from this, the glue from this particular label doesn't always stand up to the tent. So that is how we use liquid culture to inject a sawdust block. Now, third thing that I want to demonstrate on this video. I've been having a little bit of difficulty with some of my liquid cultures producing a contaminated substrate. You know, this is a king blue oyster culture that I made myself. I injected it into a jar, sawdust block. The block got contaminated. There are a number of possibilities with respect to why it got contaminated, and I'm going to demonstrate a way to test the possibility that it's bad culture. And we do that by a standard PDA plate. Okay, you can make these yourself pretty easily, and as you can see, I've labeled mine. You label them on the bottom because you store them with the larger side on the bottom. They're easier to handle that way. We inoculate from the top, and we're going to alcohol wipe the test tube, and we're going to alcohol wipe the plate. And I'm going to just open it up just enough to put some in there and close, alcohol wipe quick and close it right back up. Put it around a little bit so it goes all through there, and turn it over. And one thing that can be done in order to be sure that you're not getting additional contamination from outside, or at least minimizing the possibility, is called parafilm. Wonderful stuff if expensive. And you just start by starting on one end and going around and around. That should have been enough to do this entire plate. That's a 3 square dealie, a 3 square chunk. It should have been enough, but it's not quite cooperating. Sometimes that happens. So in this video, I've demonstrated uses for liquid culture, how to inject a jar with your liquid culture, how to test the temperature of the jar using your thermogun, how to inject both broth and an agar slant and kind of what those are, and how to inject your bag. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope it's useful to you. Enjoy the course and happy mushrooms.